Okay. There we are. There we are, friends. Hey, welcome. I'm your host, Coach Jay of the um, hashtag Ask Coach Jay. And also, don't forget, right up here, we also have the Golf Academy of Leadership Excellence right there. The little logo right there. There we go. Okay. Anyway, welcome to the very first episode of the 15 Days to Grow. 15 Days to Grow. And why is it 15, Jay? Why is it 15? Well, I'll tell you why it's 15, because we're going to be covering the book by my mentor, my friend John C. Maxwell, someone I have learned from for many years. I think I was turned on to John probably around 20 years ago. Let's see, let me think about that. Yeah, it's been about 20 years ago when I first heard about John Maxwell. And I learned about John as a senior leadership course instructor while I was still in the military and in the Army. And so a friend of mine, while I was teaching leaders how to become better leaders in the process of that and how to develop leaders in their organization, and I would always incorporate personal leadership skills as well, not just leading others, but how do you lead yourself well? And that came in really handy as a men's ministry leader and in my own personal life. And so I learned about John Maxwell from a friend of mine who was a fellow instructor, Sergeant Gumont, who went on to become I believe he became a sergeant major in the Army. I had since retired. He was a first sergeant then, but I think he continued on his service. Great guy, great leader. Love the guy. But he came to me one day. He asked me, "Hey Jay," um, he says, or hey Golf, rather say Golf. Hey, have you ever read this book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership? And I said, no, I had not. And I didn't even know who the guy was. John Maxwell? Who's John Maxwell? Okay, well, I took a reading. I was looking at it, and I discovered that John Maxwell's philosophies of leadership, his teachings, his lessons, there were things that I knew innately. There were things that I had started doing already, but it just clarified it for me. Matter of fact, not only did it give me greater clarity, it gave me a bit of credibility too, a little bit of credibility and validity to my process, my philosophies, my practices, my principles, and what self leadership is, and leading others. What does that look like? And it's not bossship either. Bossship and leadership are two different things. Okay. And for another time, another program, I've got an incredible program on that where I break that down to you. But for now, we're going to talk about your personal growth. Because if you grow personally, you're going to grow professionally. You're going to grow in many areas. And I'm going to cover many areas right now, but the 15 laws of growth from John Maxwell's The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, I want to commit that this will be 30 minutes and only 30 minutes a day for the next 15 days. If you stick with me, next 15 days, work days, weekends, you get the time off, okay? I'll give you that time off. But Monday through Friday, for 30 minutes a day, 15 laws. And I'm going to go through those with you and break them down for you. And after that, once we're done, I will open up an opportunity for some additional coaching, maybe deeper dive on this book as well in a mastermind setting. And I can do that virtually as I'm doing here from the luxury of my studio here. As you can tell, I love music. I love Elvis. You can tell, even though it's a little blurry back there. And don't adjust your glasses. It's not your vision. It is the filter here that I use. But um, but there'll be opportunities after this to grow even more. So the first law that we're going to cover for today, the law number one on day one, is the law. Let me get that up here. There we go. The law of intentionality. The law of intentionality. Growth does not just happen. You make it happen. I make it happen. We have to make it happen. It doesn't just happen on its own. Okay. And so in John's book and teachings, he talks about this. And one thing I want to point out real quick, as you grow through this, I want you to think about the areas of your life you want to grow. You want to become better. See, we all aspire to achieve something of greatness, and we have a vision of what that looks like, but we don't understand that there is a process to get there. And that's kind of what this is going to help us to discover, is the process to make it happen. All right. So some of the to discover, like in your own purpose and your own potential areas to grow in. Some 5 areas that I want you to think about: self awareness. You'll know you'll know yourself better. Okay. Character. You'll become a better person. Your character will be developed when you develop yourself. Your skill sets. When you have that intentionality, that purpose, you're going to grow. In your what you want to expand on in whatever your skills may be. As you can tell back here, I love music. I love to play music. I love to perform music. I even got back into writing. Um, these things are helping me to become better at it. Your relationships. Listen, nobody wants to be in a relationship with anybody that's not going or growing anywhere. Okay. When you are growing, you are going places. When you grow up, you go up. Okay. People are attracted to people who are growing and going. Okay, so you're going to develop your relationships both personally and professionally. You're going to be that inspiration for people in your family because you're doing the right things to grow. You're doing something. Okay, and then spiritually, even spiritually, we think it just happens naturally. We say, okay, I am a faithful person. I'm a Christian or whatever your religion may be. I study my religious teachings, my religious texts, but or I read it. I should say I read it, but did I study it? And then did I live it out? There's one thing about head knowledge, and then there's foot knowledge. I may know it, but am I going about it? I may know about it, but am I going about it? So there's that. So you want to put these things into action if you are to grow. Okay. Now the first law is the law of intentionality. Okay. So I want you to think about where you're at right now. Are you sitting in a chair? Are you in a room? If you like me, look over my shoulder. If you need an example, there's a guitar. That guitar just didn't build itself. It took somebody with an idea, developing a process, had the vision, and then developing the plan, the process, the tools to make that happen. That beautiful red guitar back there, that is a Hagstrom guitar. It's an electric guitar that Elvis played in the 1968 comeback special. Now, little side note for you: Elvis actually did not own that guitar. He borrowed it from another musician at the urging of one of the producers. Say, hey, that red guitar is going to look great with this outfit you're wearing. Boom. So he had the guitar, but it wasn't his guitar. But because he had it and it was in 68 special, that along with the other 2 guitars that Elvis played, I also have those. But it took somebody with an idea and with the knowledge and the skills to develop that. That's a process. It didn't just happen. Your personal growth is the same way. Your professional success is the same way. Your role as a husband or as a father, as a mother and a wife, uh, as a great team player in your organization, doesn't just happen. You've got to make it happen. So whatever, if you're sitting in a chair, it took an idea to get there to make that happen. Okay. All these things had parts, and then the parts had to go into order. Well, you couldn't just throw them into a box and say, okay, I have all the pieces. Now I'm just going to put anything and everything together. You're not going to get a chair. Have you ever played Legos? There's 1,000 pieces in there, and you want to build like a little house or a rocket, or like my grandson, where's that at? One of my grandsons, oh, it's way over there, made a jet fighter out of Legos. And I love it. And he did that probably like 2, maybe 3 years ago, and I still have it. But he had to have an idea of what he wanted it to look like before he could start getting the right pieces to put it together. Okay, you got to do the same with your personal growth. Now, where am I here? Here we go. All right. So your personal growth. We're going to talk about some gaps, some things that keep us from growing. So these growth gaps, okay? They kind of stop us, they trip us up, they hold us back. These are gaps, and these are traps that will hold you back because there's always a gap between knowing what you want to become and actually being what you wanted to become, okay? The knowing and the doing. There's a gap there, and we got to fill that gap, but there's things that keep us from that. What is the gap? Well, the very first gap that we're going to talk about today is, drum roll please, the assumption gap. The assumption gap. Okay. What is the assumption gap? The assumption gap tells me Move that over there. That I assume I'm going to automatically grow. Now, the truth is, we only automatically grow from the time we're born to the time we get older. You grow from a baby to an infant to a toddler to a tween to a teenager to a young adult to middle age to senior citizen. Okay, you grow there. That's automatic. You don't have to do anything. Okay, just live, keep breathing. Okay, keep your heart beating. That's all you got to do. That's accidental growth. Intentional growth is what you're doing in the process of growing during that time. So, um, but you want to be, it's not automatic. So you can assume that you're going to automatically grow, but you got to think about what's the likely outcome if that's all you do is just milli vanilli. If you just go through the motions every single day, if you're just accidentally living, okay, you're not going to get what your dream is. You're not going to fulfill what you want to truly achieve. It's just not going to happen. That's just the way it is, folks. So how can you know if you're growing or not? Do you have a gauge? Do you have something to look at? Am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I better today than I was yesterday? Am I better today than I was last week, last month, last year? Am I better? Am I going to end this year better than I ended the last year? Well, it all depends on what you're doing now. Okay. The second gap, there it is. The second gap is the knowledge gap. I don't know how to grow. I don't know how to grow. How many of us have stopped moving and doing or attempting anything because we just didn't know how to do it? Well, in this day and age in technology, that's a cop out because you can just Google it, you can YouTube it, you can even chat GPT it. Whatever it is that you don't know and you want to know so that you can become bigger and better and stronger and whatever it is you want to achieve, the resources are just a click away. Right here, my little cell phone. If I want to know anything, I just go to YouTube, I can go to Google, I can go to Chat GPT. Those are usually my three tools. Okay. You can do the same thing. So the knowledge gap, that holds us back. And that's because we're not being intentional. Not knowing how to grow can be a powerful reason, though, simply to not even try to grow. Okay. So that's the knowledge gap. So what is the next gap, Jay? Well, gap number 3. And folks, if you're sitting down, you're writing, write this stuff down. And then I want you to ask yourself some questions. I want you to ponder on these between now and the next call that we have tomorrow, which will be published tomorrow. All right. The timing gap. It's not the right time to begin. Many of us do that. We say, oh, I just don't think it's the right time. I got to wait till things are better. I got to, and you're going to see a lot of these gaps actually intertwine. They actually intertwine. We can experience one gap that actually has elements of another gap that's preventing us from growing. It's not the right time to begin, right? So I want to explain to you what the law of diminishing attempt, and I'm going to read it to you verbatim according to John Maxwell. Okay, he says the law of diminishing intent says the longer you wait to do something that you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. I'm going to say that one more time. And I know I'm convicting some folks. I know some toes are getting stomped on right now. I know you're saying, "Oh, he's talking to me." I might be talking to you. But I want you to know and understand. I'm kind of talking to myself too. This applies to me. The law of diminishing intent applies to me just as well. It says, the longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. How can you be intentional? Now's the time. I love to say, and I borrowed this from Tony Robbins actually, and I say it all the time, and I say it to my kids. As a matter of fact, I say it so much that they swear that I came up with it. Okay, I did not. I'll say it right now, but I say it all the time because I believe in it. When would now be a great time to fill in the blank? When would now be a great time to grow? I always say the answer's in the question. Now. So what happens the longer that you wait to begin your journey? We're not talking about caring about just to begin the journey. You got to get started. So what are some excuses or some reasons that you might offer as the timing of personal growth is just not right? So many people put off these programs like this here that you're getting for free today. So many people put these off because they think it's just not the right time. When is the right time going to be the right time? Now. If you want to grow, if there's a gap, you got to fill that gap. What's it going to take to fill that gap? Okay. And if your gap happens to be the timing, you need to overcome that. So what do you think? What do you think about the idea of starting your journey, even though you're scared, even though you have no idea what you're doing, even though you're totally unprepared? What do you think about the idea of starting now? How how do you feel about the idea of starting now? Now, now you'll notice I said think. I asked think. What do you think? And I asked how you feel because I'm speaking to two different personality styles here. Okay, on both sides of the disc, those that think and those that feel. You're both going to come up with the same question, the same answers that relate to why you're not growing. The mistake gap. I'm afraid of making mistakes. Is number 4. Okay, number 4. Robert Schuller said that what would you attempt to do if you knew you would not fail? What would you attempt to do if you wouldn't fail? If you knew you couldn't fail, what is it? What is that thing that you say? I always wanted to do this. Always wanted to be this, become this, do this, have this. What is it? What is it? And only you know. You fill in the blank. In fact, after this, I want you to go back and I want you to answer that question for yourself. Fill in the blank. When would now be a good time to blank? Then the next question is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail at doing that? Okay. I'm afraid of making mistakes. Guys, I've been there. And sometimes I'll be honest with you, I'm there now. In fact, in this very moment, I'm in there now. In a collaboration of effort. I'm afraid of making mistakes. I don't want to let people down. Did you know that you cannot let people down until you start to do something? And if you make mistakes, you got to ask yourself, did you let them down or did you learn something? Did you learn something? Remember, sometimes we win and sometimes we learn. Okay. Once we decide to grow, we must expect mistakes. Okay. And what we want to do with those mistakes is to realize that those are signs of moving in the right direction. No one of success, no one of great success has ever gotten there by not making mistakes. In fact, I will say this to you, the bigger the dream, the bigger the mistakes you're going to make. The more that you want it, the more mistakes you're going to make. It's going to happen. So you have to embrace those when they happen and know by utilizing your emotional intelligence, how do I respond when these things happen? I buckle it up. As I tell myself many times, I say, suck it up, Sergeant Goff, get up, get out, and get at it. That's mine. And you can borrow that too, because it's actually on t-shirts. I started doing t-shirts on that. But get up, get out, and get at it. What's it going to take? Number 5, the perfection gap. Let me see where we are on the time. Woo, doggy. If I'm going to stay true to my word, I'm going to get these done in the next 10 minutes. That's less than that. The perfection gap. I was kind of talking about that a minute ago. I have to find the best way to start, or the best way before I can start. Okay, so I can't move. The mistake gap kind of tells me that I cannot move out of fear of making a mistake. I cannot move because I'm just scared I'm going to make a mistake. Right? I have to find the best way before I start. The perfection gap. See, the mistake gap said I can't move out of fear of making a mistake. The perfection gap now says I will move only when I have the perfect plan. We call some of these people procrastinators, right? Those that want a perfect plan put it off, put it off, put it off. We call these procrastinators. In fact, they're perfectionist procrastinators. Okay. Both of these two gaps, mistake and perfection, are simply excuses just for not getting started at all. I said, well, no, it's not an excuse, Coach Jay. It's, I have reasons. Really, what's your reasons? Well, I'm afraid. No, that's an excuse because you have no reason to be scared. Well, I'm just not ready yet. I got to get more pieces in place before I can get my business. Well, oh no, no, no. That's not a reason either. That's an excuse. Go with what you have and build upon it. The best plans for growing happens as we grow, not before we grow. Hey, listen, farmers don't go out there, walk into an empty field, and get up the next morning and say, you know, I think I want corn. So I'm just going to wish for corn. No, they got to get out there. They got to prepare the soil. They got to plow. They got to sow. And then they got to harvest. They get to harvest, but it takes a process. Corn don't just grow from wishes. Okay, so that's perfection gap. The inspiration gap. I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it. I just don't feel like it. Okay, I'm not feeling it today. Folks, you know how many days a week I get up and I don't feel like doing a lot of the things that I know I need to do? In fact, I'll even tell you, there's days I don't feel like doing what I want to do. Believe it or not, there are things I want to do that I just don't feel like doing it today. Like these guitars back here. Some days, I want to do something. I want to work on my music. I want to work on the songs. I want to work on practicing songs for my shows. Sometimes I don't feel like doing it, even though I want to. So it's not always because we don't want to. Want to. Why does want suddenly feel like a weird word to say? Sometimes it's even the things that we need to do, we just don't because we just don't feel like doing it. Okay. You see, going back to the oh, I'm sorry. So out of all these gaps, the inspiration gap, right? This gap right now, I don't feel like it. This is the one that requires a simple decision. Will I do it or will I not do it? Will I do it or will I not? This isn't a question of can I do it? This is a question, will I do it? Many people are willing, many people are able, but not everybody is able, yet they are willing, and not everybody that is willing are not able to. You got me? But if you are able, then you have to determine the will to do what you want to do. You see, the ones who are able but not willing are the ones who are still sitting here crying because this is the same as it was last year. If you're able to build your business and it's not happening, then you haven't been willing to do the work it takes to get there. So you can't just wait till you feel like it. You got to do it, and then the feelings will come. Don't feel like doing it before you do it. Do it, and then you will feel like doing it. You got me? Okay. The major difference between those who do and those who don't is those who do it, do it. Huh? What? The major difference between those who do it and those who don't do it is those who do it, do it. Sounds pretty simple to me, right? Well, this is part of what John has to share with us. If you want something, you got to get up, get out, get at it. Okay, I'll throw my tag in there again. Okay. Matter of fact, I love that tag so much, I'm going to pop it up here on the screen. Where's that? There it is right there. And I have not been keeping up on the gaps. So we just finished the inspiration gap. Now we're going to go into the comparison gap. The comparison gap. Okay. One more thing on the inspiration gap. You're more likely to act yourself into a feeling than feel yourself into an action. And I kind of talked about that. So imagine if you could write a page. Of excuses. How many pages you think you could write? If you could write, and I'm talking about using the 12 font. You can do 14 if you want to. But how many pages? How many pages could you write of the excuses you've used or that you could use to not do what you want to do, to wait till you feel like doing it. Okay. The comparison gap. Number 7, others are better than I am. Oh my gosh, I have compared myself so many times to people. And then I finally realized, you know what? They are great at what they do because they were designed to do it the way they do it. Somebody asked me one time about coaching. Said, Jay, aren't you worried about the competition in the coaching industry? I said, absolutely not. But I had to come to a point to believe that because at first I was very fearful of that. How am I going to get coaching clients when there's so many coaches out there? Well, here's what I know. Not everybody is a coach for everyone, and not everyone is right for that coach. And what we coach on is differently. I don't coach on everything. I coach on personal life and leadership development. I coach on communication and connecting styles. I coach on presentations and performances. I coach in those arenas there. I will not coach you on your finances. I will not coach you on how to be a better baseball player. I'm not that kind of coach, okay? But I will coach you on how to think differently, think better, take action. Yeah. But I was stuck in that comparison gap for a short time in my life. Matter of fact, I would say, no. I take that back. Not as a coach, but before I became a coach, I was stuck in a comparison gap. I would compare myself to so many people. As a performer, oh my gosh, you talk about the comparison gap. I'm not as good as that person, so I don't know if I want to get out there. That person performs much better than me. Those of you know me, I do Elvis tribute artists, right? Performances. That person's a better tribute artist. They're younger. They move better. They look better. Okay. They wear their makeup and wig and sideburns better. Okay. Whatever it is. But I had to stop that because realizing that, you know what? People are appealed. People are attracted. I take that back. People are attracted to some people, but not all people. And people attract some people, but not all people. Okay. So we have to get out of the comparison gap of realizing that I may not be as good as they are, but you know what? They're not going to be as good as I am. It blew my mind one time when there was someone I absolutely admired their communication and style and their skills and their presentations. And I thought, my gosh, this guy's so amazing. And I went up to him. I said, man, you are just absolutely phenomenal. I said, man, I hope I can just be as good as you. And I'm working, I'm studying. And he looked at me and says, Jay, do you have any idea how much I have watched you and followed you and heard your and taken your life? He says, I learned a lot from you. Man, I admire you. You don't ever really understand how people can admire you for what you bring to the table, especially if you're stuck in your head admiring and being envious, if you will, comparing yourself to somebody else's best. We do that. Okay. The truth about others. There's always somebody better. There's always somebody worse. Okay. So rejoice and celebrate the ones who are better than you as you're going to learn from those that are out in front of you. You're learning and growing because you want to surround yourself with people that are better than you in any area. Not better than you as a person, but better than you as a skilled performer, a business owner, an entertainer, a father, a husband, a leader, a church leader, whoever's better than you in a certain field. Learn from them, grow from them. And finally, and we are going over, and I do apologize, the expectation gap. The expectation gap. So we're going to keep this 35. I thought it would be easier than this. We all have expectations. So there is a paradigm that is what lucky actually is not. Okay, preparation, which is growth. Okay, plus attitude, plus opportunity, plus action, doing something about it, taking action, equal luck. Nobody is just lucky and it happens. They've done something to get there. Okay, they prepared. They had the right attitude, mental attitude, inwardly and outwardly. Expressing opportunity. They either found the opportunities, they chased the opportunities were presented to them, or they went out and created it. They jumped on one. Say, hey, this is for me. I'm taking it. This is mine. Boom. They took action. Action. Nothing ever happens unless you take action. It can be small actions. It doesn't have to be a massive action. Matter of fact, I will tell you this right now: most people fail their resolutions every year because they jump in taking massive action, a massive change. They fail. Take a small action. I want to lose 20 pounds. Great. Why don't you try to lose a pound this week? What's that going to take? I want to run 5 miles. Fantastic. You've never run? Run a half mile. In fact, walk a mile, run half of that mile. Get started. Remember, Rome was not built in a day. So, how long are you willing to give yourself to grow? Okay. It starts by preparation. Okay. Starts by preparation. And being a part of this every single day, showing up, this is part of your preparation. This is part of your growth. Okay. So, where do you want to go in life? What direction do you want to go? Where do you want to go? What direction you're going to go? What you do daily determines your destination. Okay. What's the farthest that you can imagine taking yourself? And how long is it going to take you? Okay. Now, there's one more thing. Let's see what much time I've got. And we can go in a great deeper study. Okay. I'm going to spend just about a minute on this. There's a thing called accidental growth and intentional growth. There's accidental growth and intentional growth. And I kind of touched on it throughout this talk. Accidental growth and intentional growth. Accidental growth plans to start tomorrow. Intentional growth insists on starting now. Accidental growth waits for growth to come to them. Intentional growth takes responsibility to grow now. Accidental growth learns only from their mistakes. Okay. Intentional growth learns before they make mistakes. Preparation. Okay. You think about what could happen. How are you going to approach that? How are you going to respond to that? Accidental growth depends on good luck. We just talked about that. Good luck. Intentional growth relies on hard work. You got to get up, get out, get at it. And accidental growth quits early and often. Intentional growth perseveres long and hard. This is where attitude and perseverance really kicks in. You got to have the right attitude, the mentality. Accidental growth falls into bad habits. Intentional growth fights for those good habits. Doesn't fight against bad habits, but fights for good habits. Good habits replace bad habits. Accidental growth will talk big about what they're doing. Intentional growth actually will take the risk to make it happen. They'll take risk. Accidental growth plays it safe. Talks big and intentional growth follows through on talks big. Okay. Accidental growth plays it safe. Intentional growth takes risk. Accidental thinks like a victim. Intentional growing people think like a learner, like a leader, a learner. People who accidentally grow, they rely on their talent. Intentional growing people, intentional growth relies on character. Part of the growth in this process with the 15 days is developing your character intentionally. And finally, accidental growth stops learning once they've graduated. They graduated from high school. They graduated from college. They graduated from a certification. Intentional growing people, they grow daily. They never stop. Folks, I'm 61, about to turn 62, and I am growing every single day. I've been on a growth journey, an intentional growth journey, probably since probably maybe 2000. I say around 2000. So 25 years of intentional growing. Very intense intentional growing, maybe in the last 15 years. And I grow daily, and I want you to as well. So that's what I got for you today, my friends. 36 minutes. All right. So thank you so very much for being a part of this. We're going to pick this back up tomorrow with the second law from the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. Where am I at here? There we go. There we go. Okay. We're going to pick this up on the next episode. It's called the Law of Awareness. Okay. You must know yourself in order to grow yourself. So we're going to pick up there. and try to keep that in 30 minutes. So won't have near as much of the introduction as I had today. So we should be able to get through it. So hopefully, if you are doing this through your lunch, I hope you learned something, my friends. God bless you. Remember, get up, get out, and get at it, because the world needs exactly what you have to offer. Bye-bye.